I'm a Jedi. I'm a Jedi, you're a beauty. Let me show you the dawn from distant planets. Well, after hundreds of hours, dozens of sweaty underwear and 5 prequel reviews, I present to your court a review of the very first Star Wars film, which made Lucas so rich that in his old age he forgot such words as, "I'll go to the post office to receive my pension." One thing I don't understand here is why Mark Hamill was cast in the lead role, who hadn't seen a single Star Wars movie before playing Luke Skywalker. As far as I'm concerned, that's disrespectful to Star Wars fans. Well, when the year is 2024, the events of Episode 4 start not just from the ceiling, as in 1977, but from the end. Rogue One, where rebels in World War I gear have proven that stealing the blueprints for the galaxy's most destructive weapons from a military mega-guarded archive is easier than fighting your way through a crowd of grannies standing behind a manual. And where one of the rebel leaders, Bail Orgasm, decides to involve Obi-Wan, who has been hanging out on Tatooine for a long time, periodically spying on a little boy, in his rebel affairs. And having lost his mobile number, Orgasmo orders his adopted daughter Leia to find him, right when she has the Death Star blueprints with her. When the first thing to do was to deliver the blueprints to the headquarters on Alderaan, because Obi-Wan's last online visit was 9 years ago, and it's not a fact that he's alive at all or that he's sitting on Tatooine. He also thought of sending his beloved daughter on a ship that was illuminated in the Battle of Scarif. Leia does not have time to enter the atmosphere of Tatooine. "Hello, daughter, it's Dad." And the blueprints for which hundreds of people gave their lives can now evaporate like a Joker's pencil, just because Orgasm has sour curd instead of brains. And while 2 great armies are competing to see which of them is the worst shot, Leia has to come up with a plan to save the blueprints because of her stepfather's stupidest order. And since Leia is no smarter than a frying pan in terms of the number of neurons, she has an R2-D2 which has a powerful 40G radio module to quickly transfer 4K porn over long distances. Instead of using it to send the blueprints to the rebels in WhatsApp, she comes up with an idea even worse than her stepfather's, uploads the blueprints to the internet, and orders him to personally find Obi-Wan on Tatooine, when R2-D2 has zero information about its location. Plus the R2-D2, moving at the last speed level in the company of the stroke Google Translator C-3PO, he must find Obi-Wan on a huge planet faster than Palpatine's Foreign Intelligence Service will find the rebel headquarters, and he will destroy it with his unregistered weapons. When you're not doing your own thing, fatal mistakes are inevitable. Strategy and tactics were clearly not Princess Leia's strongest points. If she had a chance to get to know herself better and find something to do, she would obviously be doing something else. But when the military enlistment offices of the Empire recruit even from homeless people without documents, why not come up with the most ambitious plans for implementation? There are artificial intelligence droids that could mess with the blueprints. That's what prevented them from playing it safe and destroying the capsule. Do you really need to write reports for every shot? And the officers decided not to bother with paperwork? I even felt sorry for Palpatine. He has been using cunning and manipulation for many years. He was running a strategy to usurp power in the galaxy. And all this has become meaningless, because the military enlistment offices of the Empire recruit only those who can only scratch their balls. By the way, it's time to accept Princess Leia into the Imperial Army. 2. I wish I could shoot all the slanting white helmets. Knocks down only one and runs out directly into direct fire. The princess was lucky that the troops had only tasers in their hands. Otherwise, everything could have ended up like an adult. A talent for coming up with believable stories. Leia is also not given by nature. Several messages were transmitted to this ship from the rebel spies. And once again, the princess was lucky that her father had already closed the quota for murders and tortures for today. And I didn't even break a single finger to find out where she put the blueprints. And when the sergeant boasted that his men hadn't gotten the blueprints, Dart ordered in a polite voice send a group on a search without even cutting off the oxygen to the commander of the crew for such a jam. The old man must have gone soft. Well, since Vader does not punish for the joints in any way, then subordinates have no incentive to try. Therefore, having received the order to find the shuttle, the officer first hacked himself in the pillbox in the evening. And only the next day he sent a search party. Well, or they've been chasing people on the street all day on Vader's orders. Stormtroopers have to keep collecting money. Immediately after landing, R2-D2 launches the Iron Intriguer app and decides not to tell the Gilded Stroke, that he has a mission of galactic importance. And the cans, like Brian and Dominic in the finale of the 7th Fast and Furious, go their separate ways. Stomp over there, and don't you dare follow me. But as soon as they are caught by the guys from Amway for resale, R2-D2 immediately gets used to the idea that he will be sold to a brothel to waiters, and calmly awaits his fate. Instagram, Facebook, or Instagram, though, he could have posted the blueprints on the radio so that the rebels could at least find them there. The victory of the rebels depends on, will they sell R2-D2 to a normal person, or to a brothel where his memory will be formatted. And the biggest contribution to the rebel victory over the Empire is made by Luke's adoptive father. For those who decided to stay up all day on their day off, or watch Imperial assholes on Netflix, and buy droids from Amway men. And here he is, Luke Skywalker, the son of the powerful Sith whom Obi-Wan hid here 20 years ago. However, under his native name. Although Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is himself on the intergalactic wanted list, gave his name as Ben Kenobi, which everyone knows about here. He's really a genius. So you changed your name from Sean to Sean? You're like, hello, my name was Sean. But now, for the sake of secrecy, call Sean. Well, looking at what Luke does in his free time, then you begin to doubt that there is great blood in him. My mother was the queen of the whole planet at 19, and she managed to win the big war. Father Anakin Skywalker became the strongest Jedi in history at the age of 19. He conducted hundreds of military operations and managed to get married. Leia's sister is already a senator at 19, a rebel spy and a resistance leader. And Luke was 19 years old. He's the chosen one. You are not the chosen one. You're the messenger. But it is immediately clear that there is still royal blood in the hatch. He has a whole planet of girls. And he's falling for the princess with 360p video resolution, where you can't even see all the rounded places. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who is she? She's beautiful. Sly Luke wonders if she left a video camera, but R2-D2 informs him that the full video is only available through a premium subscription, or to admin Obi-Wan Kenobi. He says he is Obi-Wan Kenobi's property, and this message is for him. And while Luke was looking for Obi-Wan on Snapchat, R2-D2 downloaded an update, thanks to which he remembers about the task. When everyone leaves to watch the Wheel of Fortune, he goes to look for Obi-Wan again in the desert, where he was caught by the Amway men yesterday. But here's a much better plan. To tell Luke that, for finding Obi-Wan, Princess Leia will give him a 5th PlayStation with Turkish firmware to bypass the blocking of Imperial games. Yes, this is basically the only plan. After all, with the cruising speed of an earthworm, this urn on wheels will crawl only a kilometer away from the house all night. I am unable to comprehend their logic. And when R2-D2 detected the approach of Tatooine gypsies, who steal everything that moves, and rip off the owners of things with all their breathing and shoving, Luke doesn't understand why he goes to look at them at all, as if Taylor Swift is swimming there. Let's go take a look. Because of this curiosity, the gypsies begin to crash test his ribs. But it was fateful shit, because Luke was pressed right where Grandpa Obi-Wan was dropping ballast, and Grandpa Greyhound shouted, "Eh! From what area?" He chases away the raiders, who have already pulled a radio tape recorder out of Luke's car. And R2-D2, in the course of the conversation, begins to write with oil from happiness that he completed the task before, how all his tires had worn off. They stopped calling me Obi-Wan long before you were born. And here it is, the butterfly effect. If Obi-Wan hadn't wanted to take down the brown egg here, R2-D2 would never have found it, and the Death Star blueprints would never have reached the rebels. And Vader would have destroyed all the rebel planets. Therefore, in the future victory of the Resistance, Obi-Wan's weak bowels were to be thanked. Where did you get this theory? Obi brings Luke to his bungalow, and when he hands him Anakin's sword, for some reason, all this is fueled by a selective layer of lies. Your father wanted you to have it. I wonder when Anakin ever said such words? And give my lightsaber to my son when he grows up. And so Obi-Wan enters a personal password on the blue one, and he gets a part-time job from Leia. Help, Obi-Wan Kenobi. While Obi-Wan is collecting warming ointment for joints, Tatooine, with a population of 200,000, has flown in to surprise only a few troops. When they had to close the whole city with a tight cordon so that not even a single flea could slip through, and look under every stone. But the authorities felt that 24 fighters were enough to find the most important drawings, which could be leaked to the internet at any second. They also recruited from among the scumbags who, having gone to the place where Luke is located through Amway men, make him a John Connor cosplay. Your guardians are dead. And the only thing that saved Luke was that the paratroopers went further into the desert to look for him, without waiting at home. Why would my aunt and uncle go away right away when they could have taken them with them, and left a note for Luke to bring the droids here and there? Not even a single spy drone was left at the house for surveillance. How could you not find Luke and Obi-Wan, who stupidly gave up on disguise and allowed the droids to make a barbecue bonfire out of dead seals so that the Imperials could see such an excellent signal beacon from the air? And Obi-Wan was also a fleet general. Well, since Luke is now officially homeless on Tatooine, he fits into Obi-Wan's side job. And the men drive to the nearest brothel to look for a real driver, because both of them don't have the money on the phone to call Orgasma and call him here, so that he personally picks up the droids. If Obi-Wan makes it harder for the Imperials to find the droids, these are not the droids you are looking for. These aren't the droids we're looking for. On the contrary, Luke decided to simplify their work. Wait outside, we don't need any problems. The Imperials are looking for droids on the street, so wait outside. It would have been better if I had immediately ordered them to go look for the nearest patrol. And Luke didn't have time to order Imperial tequila. As soon as there is a local gang, which has determined by his face that he is looking for a captain. But Obi-Wan immediately teaches the scumbags Jedi wisdom. If you keep pushing, you won't be able to do push-ups with 2 hands. Oh, and why was it necessary to shine a sword, which is like an inscription on your forehead, that in front of you is a Jedi who is outlawed and wanted? And there's probably a huge reward for information about them. So already half of the bar should have run outside and called the Imperials. And that's where our old friend, Mega Gambler, Lucky Guy, and real-life gambler Khan is introduced into the plot, who immediately starts talking his way up. I was chasing away the Imperial ships. 10,000. The money is in advance. But Obi-Wan expertly reduces the amount by 5 times, and also promises to pay with the most universal currency. Then, 15 when we arrive at the place. They cut up Nah. Khan is not as cool as he presents himself. Has a bunch of unpaid microloans from a local mafia frog. And he's not trying to make money on poker, where the whole ship wins in one game. He's not that cool of a pilot. He's looking for a clientele in cheap cash dispensers at the edge of the galaxy. And he does not fulfill delicious orders for the Imperial oligarchs. Well, Luke and Obi-Wan, overjoyed that they found a car for cheap and angry, forget that stormtroopers are looking for droids. And they didn't disguise them in any way. And before departure, they catch fervent wishes for a good journey. There is no impenetrable blockade in orbit. And one ship easily breaks through a lone destroyer and crashes. The stolen blueprints are probably not so important to Vader and Tarkin. Moreover, the station administration is aware that the rebels have obtained the drawings of the vulnerable spot. If the rebels manage to get hold of the station's data, then they know her weak spot. And what do you think the leadership of the Star did to close the weak spot? Right? Nothing. This is a new level of bureaucracy. Tarkin and Vader have a 1 billion credit battle station with a 120-kilometer radius, and almost 2,300 million personnel on board, 17,000 turbolasers, 700-plus tractor beams, and an armada of ships and fighters, and zero reaction to the presence of a fatally vulnerable spot on the station, which the rebels already know about. Absolutely. The loan hasn't even been fully paid for it yet. Meanwhile, Vader continues to pretend to be cute and fluffy. When I was supposed to put pressure on Leia's dental nerves, extracting information from her, where she made the drawings, she uses a truth serum that doesn't work on her. She has a very strong resistance to brain probing. She doesn't even have fear in her. She behaves as if the Imperials are in her captivity. I recognized your stench as soon as I got on board. None of you seem to understand. I wasn't locked up with you. That's enough. You're the one who's locked up with me. If only Leia had kept her mouth shut. Better yet, she hadn't touched it with her teeth, and maybe Tarkin wouldn't have used her home planet. There are no analogs in the propaganda video about the Imperial cool weapons from the category. There are no analogs. And that's why Palpatine couldn't hire the cheapest propagandists. Why not destroy the planet of some pirates who got everyone under the guise of anti-piracy struggle and caring for all the citizens of the galaxy, so that the planets not only fear the Empire but also respect it? Tarkin demolishes the most peaceful planet with 2 billion people. After that, all the politicians would understand that Palpatine is a complete psychopath, and something must be done about him. What were you thinking, moron? And when Leia realized where the expression "filter the bazaar" came from, couriers arrive at the wreckage of the planet, and before they have time to register the cancellation of the order, they will find out that the next few hours will be very interesting for them. But why be afraid of those who confuse letters with numbers on a vision test? And the couriers are hiding in the floor, they're waiting for customs to finish a lazy 1-minute manual inspection, because X-ray scanners haven't been invented yet. And now the saboteurs are storming the security post. But due to the fact that 90% of the budget of the Star was stuffed into the pockets of officials, the operating system on it was installed. The oldest, that the droid released 32 years ago, hacks the entire system in a second. And not a single sysadmin even noticed that an outsider was rustling in the system. And as soon as R2-D2 found Leia, Luke, at the call of a member, immediately begins a liberation operation without any plan. With zero information about the prison guards and considerations on how they will get out when the alarm goes off. Think about it, it turns out that Lucas, back in 1977, covered up a blunder with "oblique stormtroopers," a short phrase from Luke. But holy shit, with the technology of destroying planets, they agreed to the army helmet with glasses, from the welding mask. The main thing is design, but I don't care about functionality. Just imagine how, in principle, can a stormtrooper hit someone with this helmet? If there are soldiers in the prison block, they can't even hit the men without a helmet. Minister of Defense of the Empire, clearly a cocaine addict. Since he's the perfect soldier, he's a cross-eyed moron, with shaking hands in a welder's helmet. My God, such a soldier appears once in 1,000 years. Khan, purely by the look of the dashboard without a monitor, finds out which camera Leia is in, and Luke exhales that all cameras open with buttons, and there is no need to look for the keys of the guard who went to the toilet. Come with me if you want to live. Khan catches blind man syndrome from fright, that even welders are starting to recruit him for service. And Leia, seeing that the rescuers need to be saved, the built-in echo sounder scans the wall and finds a life-saving garbage chute. Well, or so that Leia doesn't get bored in the cell. Good Daddy Vader brought her the Death Star blueprints to read. And the princess knew for sure that there was a garbage chute. And for example, not a cremation oven. And that's all that separated Palpatine from defeating the rebels. It's the soldiers' decision to leave for lunch rather than crowd into the garbage chute. But the fugitives are still getting to know the Imperial mess. Why are the Imperials keeping an incomprehensible creature in a garbage chute? Probably only George Lucas himself knows. And when the whole Star was already aware that the princess had escaped, who was still needed alive, some idiot gave the order to turn on the press in the garbage chute. And now an important prisoner would become a slice of bacon for sandwiches. If it weren't for the brainless stormtroopers that the left droids are talking about and sending in the other direction. And R2-D2 quietly runs the garbage disposal. Although the stormtroopers already have a well-developed protocol for checking incomprehensible droids. Well, Leia obviously did not go through the princess school, and instead of the normal gratitude for the rescue, she does everything so that the men put her back in the cell. And now, due to the fact that all the crooked and blind from all over the galaxy have already been mobilized into stormtroopers, then the Star recruited men suffering from infantilism. And they're like children, scared of Hannah. And they run away from him as if from Godzilla. Bang, Han, don't fucking understand why you chased after them. When he needs to get on his ship. And when he comes running to the firing squad, the same one turns on the strategic regrouping, and together with the hatch gets a 2 for stealth. After all, Obi-Wan, unlike them, does not have a stormtrooper suit. And the access codes get to the generators as imperceptibly as if there wasn't a single living soul on the station at all. And after disabling the magnetic parking, Kenobi would have to look for a safe way to the Falcon because Luke now needs to be taught and taught to be a Jedi. Smelling a former student in the Jedi sphincter, the one who jumps badly went to cut off his jump ropes again. I begot you and I'm going to kill you. And anyway, it's not clear why I started disassembling it if I've already bent it twice. And he kept her alive every time. Apparently, Obi-Wan catches a boner when he shows Anakin that he's also the coolest guy in the village. Okay, Obi's old now, but Anakin just hacked down the rebels yesterday. In a mega-fast epic style, and now he's barely moving. Did you forget to drop by the Imperial Power Engineers? But according to the chronological sequence of events in the films, the claim is justified. Yesterday, Vader was mega-fast and cool. Today he's moving worse than Biden. At the same time, the saboteurs are afraid to destroy the 5 welders, whom Khan had put to flight with a shout and steel balls a minute ago. The hotshot guys were lucky that the welders went to cheer for the boss, ignoring the order to guard the ship. And then Luke's curious poker face somehow crashes Obi-Wan's OS. And out of the blue, like an agreement, he merges the battle. And then, in general, it is incomprehensible to the mind. It's kind of mystical. There was a real tactician at the station who came up with the idea to install a beacon on the Falcon so that Leia would lead them to the rebel headquarters. But no one gave the order to the fighters to cease fire. It was lucky that the pilots, as usual, turned out to have their eyes turned into a skull. And they didn't give the heroes anything but an adrenaline rush. But Leia, who uses her leaky IQ, has already realized that the station's armament is a bit of a mess. They are clearly not alive because of the stupidity of the entire officer staff. They drive a planet with the main rebel base into the navigator so that the Death Stars will hit it in 5 minutes. Although it was necessary to get closer to the distance of the radio signal, send the coordinates of the place where to pick up our 2D2, wander through space until they come up with a plan to destroy the station according to the blueprints. And as a finale, lead the Death Star into an ambush. Moreover, Horseradish, whom she has known for 20 minutes, who is also a smuggler, throws out secret information to him. What's so important about it? Tell me. Technical data of the combat station. That's what happens when Dad's a senator. He's trying to get his dumb kids a place in the government. What if Khan is a double spy? And he helped Leia escape only to find out where the droid with the blueprints was. It's just logic. And that's purely because of Leia's stupidity. The rebels would have disintegrated into atoms right now if some degenerate on a star. I haven't parked for God knows how many kilometers from the planet. The satellite with the base will be in range in 30 minutes. To give the rebels time, make backup copies of the blueprints and evacuate the planet. With all its personnel and its entire fleet. Yes, according to the canon, there is such a theme that the Death Star, your main weapon, he can only use his wits. And yesterday she shot at Alderaan. And maybe it's just still charging. But here it is that the station enters the firing trajectory. This means that the main laser is already charged. Switch the laser to standby mode. The rebels are also lucky that the mega-important archive of blueprints was not even secured. When ideally, and it should open only on a domestic operating system. Ubuntu Imperius. And the coolest engineer in the galaxy. He works for them. I took one look at the 3D drawings of the station 120 kilometers in diameter, and instantly realized what was there and how it worked. And I found the right ventilation out of thousands of holes, where to put the bomb. This is comparable to finding an empty parking space on a Google map of Moscow in a second. And it turns out that the rebel Kulabin, without any prior information about the station, figured out the drawings in a couple of minutes and found a vulnerable spot in it. Although a week ago the rebels didn't even know about the existence of the Death Star. The Empire is making new weapons. What kind of weapon? Moreover, Edison also managed to concoct a video presentation of the attack. This is the valve of the exhaust shaft, the reactor cooling system. An accurate hit will trigger a chain reaction that will destroy the station. It's a great presentation. Just gorgeous. Han, as a master of avoiding an asshole situation, takes the bonus for saving the princess. In general, good luck. Have a nice stay, fuck you. You know what, I don't want to die. I'm young, I have a lot of plans. And the rebel generals, astrologers from TikTok, are given a tooth that they will definitely win. And they are not starting an evacuation from the planet of the main assets and important people. Because we are 100% sure that 30 fighters running on diluted kerosene are enough to break through the station's defenses, with a diameter of 120 kilometers. Where, let me remind you, 7,000 fighters, 1,200 turrets, and 700 tractor beams. When it is considered that under equal technical conditions, where there is an effective offensive, the forces of the attacker must outnumber the forces of the defender by at least 3 times. That is, the rebels must attack with a fleet of 21,000 fighters in order to distract the Empire's fighters. and protect the attack aircraft which will drop torpedoes into the mine. But as they say, with such idiots in the army, you don't need enemies. The station's guns turned out to be completely useless against small fighters. They're too small. We'll have to destroy them one at a time. The anti-aircraft gunners recruited sloths, who open fire when the fighters have already flown up to the station. And a measly 30 fighter jets are calmly flying around the station. And they're making a fuss. As it says in the Zvezdopedia, the station's designers underestimated the threat from the fighters. Therefore, they put too few weapons of destruction against them. And that's when there are fighters in this galaxy. One of the main shock units. How could they be underestimated? They didn't even deliver homing missiles. There is a protective field, only in propaganda videos on Empire TV. And the parking lot, which could be immediately magnetized into the hangar of all fighters, no one has figured it out. How to turn on after Obi-Wan's sabotage. And the rebels are winning. Not because they're great strategists, but because the generals of the Empire dumber than a log. The rebel attack plan was also invented by a military expert from the comments, right at school during recess. When all you had to do was fly around the station, descend near the place of the shot, shoot and fly away with minimal losses, which would take 1 minute. 3 stormtroopers descend into the chute, in general, on the opposite side of the mine, only to miraculously fly 188 kilometers, surrounded by anti-aircraft guns and fighter jets. But the rest of the fighters are just used as cannon fodder to cover the attack aircraft. Here we would use the tactics and strategies of the Star Horseradish. The Death Star would have become history a long time ago. And there's no arguing about that. And only after the start of the battle, Vader finds out that of the 7,000 newest fighters, only a couple dozen are capable of flying, half of which have already been destroyed by the rebels. But what? 1 is completely defective. Out of 4, 1 can fly, 2 of them have no ammunition. And the rest did not fly out because Tarkin thought that no one would dare to attack the station, and resold them. And that he sells weapons? To whom the war is, and to whom the mother is dear. And since the Empire's pilots are not even able to download games from a torrent, Vader goes to personally show a masterclass. If you want to do something well, do it yourself. Okay, I'll do it myself. And destroys it as the first assault group. And the second one. Because the covering fighters, it's not clear what they're doing dozens of kilometers away. By the way, an interesting fact. Initially, according to the script of the film, the Death Star was attacked by a red and blue squadron of soldiers. But the blue color on the fighters interfered with the normal operation of the blue ones. And the blue squadron was replaced with a gold one. Red is gold. But in 2016, in Rogue One, the red, gold, and blue squadron attacked Skyriff, covering for the rebels while stealing blueprints. And there, the blue squadron was completely destroyed, making them unavailable for the current attack on the Death Star. Disney has a lot to charge for Star Wars, but for such Easter eggs to the fans, for that respect. Luke didn't know about the ancient Jewish wisdom of learning from the mistakes of others. Therefore, according to the same moronic tactics, it flies into the chute next to the mine. And also for a shitty cloud of kilometers so that the fighters would get on the tail. And when Luke's death became inevitable, Khan materializes like a piano from the bushes and shows the rebels how to cover the attacking group. And when no one interferes with the hatch and all that remains is to launch the torpedoes, Obi-Wan connects through the schizophrenic channel from the Jedi Astral and contributes his own imbecility to the mission. And like any grandfather, a grandson broadcasts that modern gadgets are shit. And it's better to aim the old-fashioned way. With the help of Jedi magic. Use the power of the hatch. Yeah, the power that Luke trained on a maximum of half an hour. And surprisingly, Luke is a Jedi swinter, manages to aim precisely at the bullseye, and is one of the top 2 killers from the cinema after Thanos, having killed more than 2 million people with 1 shot. Hey Leia and Anakin, what have you achieved at the age of 19? Well, while Luke and Khan are hyping on TV, they get medals and run away from fans. Palpatine goes into depression because the project, which took 12 years to build, and which took at least a quarter of the Empire's annual GDP, merged into the toilet in the very first battle in 10 minutes, bringing absolutely zero benefit to defeating the rebels, having played only the role of a sewer pit, for a huge amount of money. Get your ass over here, 7-foot asthmatic, otherwise I'll tell everyone. How you whined about that Padawan mom or Panda or whatever her name was,